An Inheritance of Magic is the first book in Benedict Jacka's new urban fantasy series set around a new character, Stephen Oakwood. Tune in to see if Stephen takes up the mantle from Alex Verus and continues Benedict's excellent run through urban fantasy.
This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
So no spoilers here. Obviously, the book has not come out yet. I got an advanced copy in exchange for a review. But you're probably wondering, okay, new series, what can we expect here? It's urban fantasy. It is a younger character than Alex Verus, kind of a just starting out type of feeling, rather than Alex is a journeyman of sorts when we start Alex Verus. I guess I'm assuming people listening have read Alex Verus. If you haven't, it's about a wizard in London, and we're kind of getting the same thing here. Stephen Oakwood lives in London as well. He's not a wizard per se. Magic is pretty different here. It's more of a commodity, and that has a lot of effect on the magical economy. And that's a definitely an interesting part of the series. The magic itself is more built out than in Alex Verus. It's more of I would classify it as a magic system. There's a glossary at the back with some rules. There's different types of magic. There's different ways in which it works. And I thought this was unique and fun, and I enjoyed it. I think the magic system and economy and the way that is going to work into the series was one of the best parts of this book. Inheritance is a big-time setup book. We get introduced to Stephen Oakwood. The book is first person, and we don't really get a ton of other characters that are really explicitly built out other than Stephen. Like, obviously there are side characters, but by the end of the book, Stephen is the one that we know, and then we have a big cast of other characters that honestly I'm not really sure who's going to come to the forefront. I think the other characters are built out well enough. Like, I guess I should say I do have somewhat of an idea of which ones are important, but I think we'll be surprised as the series goes forward which ones step up and take up a lot of screen time. That said, I think Stephen's a great character that is fairly relatable. He is lonely. He is trying to figure out his life. He has a few friends, but not too many. He's kind of scrounging around. I got a lot of Quoth from Name of the Wind vibes. We actually talked with Benedict, and we'll have an interview coming out with him in a week or so. He said he didn't base him off of Name of the Wind, but that's the vibe that I got. There's a big part of the book where he's kind of scrounging around trying to get enough money to survive, and I enjoyed this part. I felt like very much felt like an origin story type of book. I got big time comic book vibes. It also has some progressionist fantasy vibes. I haven't read a ton of that, but Benedict did say that that's what he was going for a bit. So I think we will see throughout the rest of the series him continue to level up. We see that quite a lot in this book as he starts to figure out his magical powers, figure out unique ways to use them, get some new tools. I think the way the magic's set up with the economy and the way that you can build new sigils and use the Drewcraft magical, throwing out some vocab words here for the series. The way that you can use these things kind of lends itself to getting more powers and slowly getting more and more abilities. I think that's one thing that I wish we'd seen more of in Alex Verus, where Alex was kind of stagnant for a while. I think that this is going to be maybe a lot more progressionist. Like, naturally throughout the series, Stephen's going to continue to get stronger, take on bigger enemies, bigger challenges, and I look forward to that. That said, the first book is not that big. It's fairly slow, and it's really just an intense focus on Stephen and the beginnings of his character and where he's going in the world. We set up a lot of the conflicts that I think we will see for books and books. Benedict said this is like a 12-book series. He's planning on writing these for a long time, assuming they're received well. And overall, the first book I enjoyed. I think it could have, more could have happened, but for what it was trying to do, it did a good job. It's not a long book. It is fairly fast-paced. There are parts where it slows down a bit because it's really just kind of focused on Stephen and his character and slowly kind of him figuring out the world. But the way that it's written just kind of lends itself to a quick read through. Enough happens where it stays interesting, but I do think there are certainly ways that it could have been stronger. So while I enjoyed the book, I don't think it was perfect by any means, but I do think it sets up a series that seems interesting going forward. Okay, ratings for some different parts of the book. Plot, I'm going to give only a 6 out of 10. It was good enough for what it was trying to accomplish in this book. However, I think we could have had a few more exciting moments, bigger moments. The story could have been a little bit bigger. I felt like we kind of moped around with Stephen for maybe a little too long, and some more interesting things could have happened. So while it wasn't necessarily like a bad thing, the reason why I enjoyed the book was not because of the plot. It was because of the character, and it was because of the interesting setting. I think those were the main two things. The plot kind of did enough to carry us through, but it felt like kind of the first episode of, I already compared it to a superhero show, but it felt like the first episode of a superhero TV show where not that much happens, but you meet the character, you kind of establish a few enemies, and you look forward to the next episode. Setting was an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy the urban fantasy London setting. I think that's well done. It feels real. And the integration, once again, of the real and the fantastical is well done. The commodization of magic, where now it's a resource and it's something that it's not necessarily secret, but it's kind of like not talked about as much. And it's got a big like international importance. The magic does. I think that is going to be interesting going forward. I think we'll get more than just London. It seems like there's some big like trade companies that are in the wings, and maybe we'll travel around a little bit more. I think there's a lot of good potential for the settings going. Characters, 8 out of 10. They get high marks because of Stephen. I thought he was a great character and well built up, and the first person point of view really worked with him. However, there's like a huge gaping hole for this side character that's going to come forward and Stephen's going to bounce off of. There needs to be at least one. I assume we'll get a few more, but there are a few candidates. There's one kind of friend that by the end seems like he'll be a bigger deal, but there was a lot of time where it's just kind of like Stephen and his cat hanging out, and we need another character so we can see more aspects of Stephen bouncing off of a foil or a friend or just someone. There needs to be more side characters doing important things, not just Stephen the whole time. I guess the other side characters, like the enemies, were set up well. The Ashford family and Stephen's kind of, there's some frenemy vibes there. I think that there's some interesting things going on there. The priest friend, he's cool, and I think he has some good potential. So there's some certainly that I think will step up and be more important, but the biggest knock on the characters is that we need like a second tier. And right now there's a good third tier, but the second tier is kind of this gaping hole in the story. Pacing gets a 7 out of 10. It keeps moving pretty well. The writing, and the reason why is because the writing does a good job of carrying it along and lending itself to a fast-paced feel. But if we had more action, I think that would maybe like prove that the writing technique was correct in making it fast-paced, because it was fast-paced, but it's kind of like fast-paced to nothing sometimes, because it was just Stephen sitting around and like slowly leveling up. And I think the leveling up could have been done with a little more exciting events that were part of the leveling up. Prose, 8 out of 10. Well written, solid urban fantasy feel. It was funny. There were some good deep cut references throughout. There's like a Dresden reference with one of the ways that he pretends to cast a spell. Some things like that. There was a funny notice where he was trying to, or one of the characters was trying to unlock a phone, and one of the other enemies was like, you have to click on the pictures of the fire hydrants, and stuff like that. Really small things, I think, add a good flair to it. So Prose, 8 out of 10. Overall, this is a 7.5 out of 10 book. I think I wanted more from this book, but I enjoyed what it had to offer. I enjoyed reading, and really it kind of left me wanting to read more in the series, which overall is a good thing. Could it have been stronger? Yes, absolutely it could have been. Was it a failure? No. It was somewhere solidly in the middle, and I'm excited for more in the series.